Hello, dear students. Today we will start with a new poem from the book Imprints. The title of the poem is The Human Seasons by John Keats. Before we move on to the explanation of the poem, I want to give you a brief introduction to the poet, John Keats. So, John Keats was born in the year 1795 and he died at a very young age of 25 years in the year 1821. However, even at this very young age, he had been a remarkable poet, a remarkable English poet. He had a remarkable career as an English poet. He had published only 54 poems in 3 slim volumes and a few magazines. I have listed down a few of John Keats' most popular works. The first one is Lamia. The second one is On First Looking into the Chapman's Homer. The third work is Ode to a Grecian Urn. And the fourth one is Ode to a Nightingale. He has written much more popular poems, but I have listed down only a few. Now, let us begin with the explanation of the poem. Now, students, look at this section in your textbooks. A few questions has been posed before us. The first question is, what idea does the title of this poem suggest to you? What does this title, The Human Seasons, mean to you? Can the seasons in nature be compared to the phases in a person's life? Can the seasons in nature be compared to the stages in man's life? So this is what the poem is about. We will answer these questions once we have gone through the poem. Okay, let me first of all give you a brief overview of the poem. This poem presents the different stages of man's life. Okay? And it has been rendered as the 4 seasons of the year. Students, what are the 4 seasons of the year? The 4 seasons are spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Okay? Spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So let us move on to the first paragraph. Which season is it talking about? 4 seasons fill the measure of the year. So the poet is saying that our year, the entire year, is filled with 4 seasons. That is spring, summer, autumn, and winter. There are 4 seasons in the mind of man. So students, the poet is also saying that these seasons are also present in man's mind. It is not only present in nature, but it is also present in the mind of man. He has his lusty spring. So the first season, spring, is being mentioned. So the poet is saying that man has lusty spring in his mind. Okay, spring is being described as lusty. Why? Because spring is the time of birth. It is the time of passion. It brings in life. It is the time to give birth. Okay, you will see new flowers. You'll see a lot of flora and fauna during spring. You'll see flowers blossoming everywhere. You'll see a lot of greenery during spring. Okay, so man has his lusty spring. That is why spring is being described as lusty, because it is vigorous, it is robust, it is passionate, and it is time for birth. It is the time for new life to be born. Okay, that is how spring is being described. When fancy clear takes in all beauty with an easy span. So the poet is saying that spring conveys a very easy and outgoing emotion. This is what when fancy clear takes in all beauty with an easy span means. Spring conveys a very easy and outgoing emotion. Students, you need to remember that the season of spring is full of optimism and hope. It is full of positivity. It symbolizes birth and life. Also, for every season or stage of life, man has a different outlook. In the first paragraph, the poet Keats, equates childhood with spring. So I hope you are clear with the meaning of the first stanza. Students, you need to remember that childhood is featured by innocence, physical stamina, and vitality, and a tremendous stamina for fun and play. And similarly, spring too represents stamina, vitality, innocence, and a lot of fun and play, and which is why the poet says that spring takes in all beauty with an easy span. It is easy and outgoing in nature. Let us move on to the second paragraph, the second stanza. He has his summer. Man has his summer, another stage of life. So summer is equated by the poet with youth or young adulthood. Okay, so the second stage of life in man's mind is youth, when luxuriously springs honeyed cud of youthful thought he loves to ruminate, and by such dreaming high is nearest unto heaven, quiet coughs. So he is saying that summer is a time of luxuriously ending spring's reign. Okay, so with summer, spring ends its reign. Spring comes to an end with summer, just as with youth, childhood comes to an end. Now look at these two words. Honeyed cud. What is honeyed cud? Honeyed cud in its literal sense represents the cows that chew on grass for a long time. Okay? So similarly, summer is also felt by man for a very long time. Or youth is rejoiced, it is savored by man for a very long time. Okay, so summer lasts a while, just as we try to enjoy and savor every moment of our youth. Okay, of youthful thought he loves. So yes, we enjoy every moment that youth brings in, because we are in our prime. Summer represents youth, and in our youth, man is at his prime. To ruminate and by such dreaming high. So also during his youth, man thinks deeply. Ruminate means to think deeply or to ponder. It is almost as if man dreams by such dreaming high. What is he dreaming of? He dreams about his future. Now students, it is remarkable that man shapes his career. He thinks about, each and everyone thinks about the path that they are going to follow in life during their youth. Okay, let me repeat. During their youth, each and everyone decides which path to take in life. So he dreams or he thinks, he ruminates about such things. Is nearest unto heaven quiet coughs. So it is almost this age, this stage of life, the youthful stage of life is almost like heaven. His dreams are almost like heaven. Quiet coughs. It is almost as heavenly as quiet coughs. Students, note down the meaning of coughs. Coughs mean a small sheltered bay, or where the land curves inwards at the coastline. Okay, So let's say this is the sea and the land curves inwards. Okay, so that is called curves. You may look at the dictionary to get a better meaning of curves, or you can even Google and see pictures of curves. It is there are quite a number of pictures on the internet. Beauty and attraction symbolizes the physical color of youth. So, like spring, spring is the season of optimism, hope, passion, birth. Summer is the season of beauty and attraction. Let us go to the third stanza. His soul has in its autumn. So the third season is autumn. His soul has in its autumn, when his wings he furleth close, contented so to look on mists in idleness, to let fair things pass by unheeded as a threshold brook. Now the poet talks about the third stage of his life, the third stage of man's life, that is autumn. The third season is autumn, and Keats, or the poet, equates autumn with middle age. His soul has in its autumn. So man's soul is now like autumn. When his wings he furleth close. So man's soul is also being described to that of a bird. So wings talk about the wings of a bird. In this case, man's soul is being compared to that of a bird. The word furleth, he furleth close. Now furleth means to curl or to fold. So just like a bird curls his or her wings when the bird rests, man's soul also rests during autumn or during middle age. Let's see, how does man's soul rest during middle age? Contented so to look on mists in idleness. Students, you need to remember that autumn suggests a sense of resignation to one's thoughts, resignation and emotional closure. It suggests a sense of stillness. Man's soul or mind is compared to that of a bird. See, I've already said that man's soul is being compared to that of a bird. When a bird curls his wings, he is said to be resting. Similarly, man rests during middle age. Unlike summer, what happens in spring and summer? Man dreams high and mighty. However, this is not the case during autumn. Man's thoughts are now much wiser. He is much more still and much more mature. He no longer dreams high and mighty. He is simply contented to look on mists in idleness. He is contented to change. He is contented. He is simply pleased to enjoy nature. He looks upon nature as well as his life in idleness, in stillness, or without straining too much physically. He does not wish to strain himself physically any longer. He simply wants to rest and observe nature as well as his life passing by. Students, you also need to remember that during autumn, trees shed their leaves. Autumn is a season of deterioration, when everything around us begins to fade away. Similarly, middle age is featured by degrading physical health. So man no longer wants to exert himself physically. He wants to rest and observe nature as well as his stage of life, this stage of life in idleness, to let fair things pass by unheeded as a threshold brook. He wants to let things pass by. He does not want to be disturbed or perturbed by the things, by the happenings in his life. He wants to stay unbothered. He does not want to pay much heed to the happenings around him, to what is happening in nature as well as his life. Just as a threshold brook. What is a threshold? Threshold is a piece of stone or wood. Okay? Threshold is a piece of stone or wood. So just like a piece of stone or wood remains unheeded, unperturbed, unbothered while the stream or the brook passes by it. Just like that, similarly, man too does not want to pay much heed. He does not want to exert himself physically during this stage of life. He wants to let things pass by undisturbed like a stone in a brook. So students, I hope you are clear with the third stage of man's life. That is autumn or middle age. He has his winter too of pale misfeature, or else he would forego his mortal nature. So the poet now talks about the fourth season, that is winter. This is the last season of the year and also the last stage of man's life. Winter is equated with old age. The last stage of man's life is old age, and it is compared to winter. So the poet says that he has his winter too of pale misfeature. What is the meaning of misfeature? Misfeature means spoilt appearance, when signs of scars of old age show up. So students, the winter season is marked by extreme dryness and cold. All of you know this. Winter season is very dry and cold. The days are short and the nights are long. During winter or during old age, physical strength falls to an all-time low. You'll see that during old age, it is very difficult to move about. You'll see your grandparents, they always need help from your parents or even from you, because their physical strength has fallen to an all-time low. It is marked. Their physical feature is now marked with scars and wrinkles. Or else he would forego his mortal nature. So, winter is the final season of the year. Also for man, old age is the last stage of life. During this stage, man has to forego his mortal nature. That is, he needs to give up of his mortality, or he has to give up on his life and pass away. Okay? So old age is the last stage of man's life. It ends with death. Like winter is the last season of the year ends with winter in December. Similarly, old age is the last stage of man's life. Man has to give up on his mortal nature. He has to give up on his life. And finally, he ceases to exist, which means that he passes away. So students, I hope that you are clear with the 4 seasons. That is spring. Spring equates to childhood or infancy. It is marked by passion, robustness, vigorousness. By birth, it is full of hope and optimism. The second season is summer. Summer is when youth enjoys this stage of life the most. He likes to dream high and mighty, and his dreams are almost heavenly. The third stage of life is autumn, when everything fades away, when nature deteriorates, and similarly, human life too starts to deteriorate. During this stage, man is simply an observer. There is less physical activity, and man is wiser and marked by more mature activities. The last stage of life is winter. Winter is very dry and cold. Winter is compared to one's old age. During one's old age, physical strength falls to an all-time low. Old age is marked by scars and wrinkles. Just like winter is the final season of the year, old age is the final stage of man's life. Old age is the last stage of man's life, when he has to give up on his life, give up on his mortal nature, and pass away. So students, I hope that you're clear with this poem. You can try to answer the questions, these questions. Understanding the poet from question number 1 to stanza 4's question number 2. In case of any doubts, you can always ask me. I'll help you out. Okay. Thank you so much. That is all for today's class.